that essential oils can have a really great way to kind of help us manage kind of our response to stress. So that's kind of mostly the way that I've been using them. Now, there are molecules that exist in essential oils that also have really, really potent antiviral, antimicrobial, antiseptic, antibacterial properties, right? So when I talked about how steam distillation takes out the aroma molecules, those aroma molecules, when tested and experimented on and researched, have shown to have like really powerful effect against germs and kind of bacteria and viruses. And when we're trying to kind of boost our own immunity, keep ourselves calm, kind of keep ourselves and our family healthy, keep our environment healthy and clean, essential oils have this really great dual kind of dual therapeutic effect, both for keeping us healthy and supporting our immune system and keeping our space healthy, but also this through aroma, how it affects really our mind and our emotion. So I thought that I would just go through a couple of essential oils that I have with me. I have here, I don't know, about 12 that I'm using kind of continuously throughout my week. And I thought that I would share some of them and like the ways that I use them. One way, one thing that I just wanted to share is I think understanding how our sense of smell works, just to give you a little taste of that, and then and how that can really affect your health, can be really useful before I dive into everything. So when we smell an essential oil, right, I have an oil right here. So when we have, and if you have an oil at home, you can take it out and smell. The best way that I like to smell an essential oil is basically trying to find a really like peaceful, quiet space. And this is an oil, maybe I use it every day, maybe I don't, but this is just to try to really connect and expand and understand our sense of smell. Our sense of smell actually can increase over time, meaning if we practice smelling every day, we can actually increase the amount of olfactory nerve cells and actually strengthen them, almost like a muscle. So I think it's always just nice to sit, maybe as part of your quiet meditation practice, maybe have an oil near you, and just to kind of connect with what smelling does and how it affects you. So here is a beautiful oil this is unique to America. It's called Pinyon Pine. The botanical name is Pinus edulis. This happens to grow only in the southwest area of the states, like northern Arizona, northern New Mexico, and southern Colorado, and maybe a little southern part of Utah. It's a pine tree. It has really resinous, gooey pine cones, and it has this beautiful kind of almost lemony pine kind of aroma. And the native people of the United States have used this plant, not necessarily the essential oil, but they've burned the needles, burned the pine cones, burned the resin mostly for respiratory health, for purification, detoxification, but also for spiritual connection, spiritual journeying, ceremony, and ritual. For me, this has been like a really beautiful oil for this COVID time, not mostly to help connect my mind and my breathing. So when I was talking about how I like to smell an essential oil, it's very connected to also breath work. So like I'll find my center, I'll put it right under my nose, I'll wave it back and forth. And I take this time to really take note of, number one, how the aroma makes me feel. Like really try to connect with that heart energy. How does it make me feel? Do I feel relaxed? Does it lift my energy? Does it make me feel comforted? Does it open my heart to let feelings come out? Like what is going on emotionally when I smell it? The next thing I like to consider is where in my physical body does it just zero into? Some oils go right to my upper respiratory. Others I feel more in my adrenals. Others I might feel at the top of my head. So take like a sense to feel where it's landing physically in your body. And then I always like to think about adjectives, like what does it smell like to me? Like fruity or grassy or damp or musty, because that will also help me to kind of understand the shape of the aroma as I start blending it with other essential oils. So that's the way that I approach every essential oil. Even though I've worked with them for 20 years, there's still, I always take a minute to kind of smell it, because, you know, smelling and working with oils is a living experience. It will change as you change. It will change as your responses change. It will kind of, I guess, reveal to you different things than it maybe did 2 months ago. So I think it's a great way to always keep on hand, which is why I always carry like a little pouch with me anyway, wherever I go. So this pinyon pine that I like to use, I'll just tell you a little bit about its properties. And obviously this is going to be really hard to find in Israel probably, but this is a pine. So any pines will do. Like you could look at spruces or pines or cypress, any of these kind of conifer where you're getting it from the needles, can be really, have very similar therapeutic properties. They are physiological affinities, are for upper respiratory, they're antiseptic, they are antimicrobial, they're anti-infectious, meaning they're great to diffuse in a diffuser in your home. They're great to add to, and I'll talk about different delivery methods at the end. They're great to add to like a body oil and rub on the chest or around the neck or in the scalp to kind of help open up congestion. But then I think when we're talking about emotional resonances with pine oils in general, to me, it's really about connecting mind and breath and opening those channels for a meditative space, for releasing worry, releasing anxiety. They're very calming. And I'm sure all of you, if some of you practice yoga or do any kind of meditative practice, that as soon as we check in with our breath, all of that static and nervous energy, whatever, starts to float away, starts to dissipate. So I feel like pine oils are really great for that kind of centering as well. Another essential oil that I find has been incredibly useful on an emotional, like just kind of centering, and I know may seem like a very common oil, but I find that its resonances are very, very deep and very vast, is frankincense. Frankincense oil is steam distilled from the resin, like the sap, the inner sap of this older kind of ancient tree that grows like East Africa. And this one is from Oman that I have, but also grows Somalia, Ethiopia. There is some frankincense that grows in India, but it's a different species. So the one that we're looking at is the sacra or the carteri. The botanical name is Boswellia carteri. Now, frankincense to me, for this period of time, number one, is also a beautiful oil that connects mind and breath. Frankincense has been an essential oil, an aroma, an aromatic that has been used for centuries for spiritual practice, meditative practice, has a history of over 5,000 years old. And this also has great antibacterial, antimicrobial properties as well for purification, detoxification. We see it a lot in skincare, also for that kind of antimicrobial aspect of it. But what is so unique about frankincense, which is different than the pine that we were smelling a little bit ago, is its powerful ability for healing tissue. And so when I think of frankincense, I really think of the word kind of healing and supportive healing and healing wounds. And when you think about the way that frankincense is actually harvested, what they do is they actually cut the tree and they let the inner sap ooze out, almost like a wound, like blood dripping out. And then that resin dries hard on the outside of the tree. And they actually call them tears, the way the shape of the resin is. So you feel like the tree is almost like weeping or from its wound. But what's so beautiful is that once they gather that resin, the wound that was inflicted is completely healed. So frankincense has this tremendous affinity to wound healing and to repair and to support of that kind of innate ability of all of us to heal our wounds, so to speak. And then, of course, like I said, it also has great molecules that have been researched and demonstrated to actually, be antimicrobial, to actually be, dissolve mucus in the chest and help us expectorate and to kind of help our respiratory health. So on the one hand, it has this like deeper, more reflective kind of emotional affinities, but it also has some powerful physiological actions that you can use. So this would be great to diffuse, both to help congestion, but also to help our state of mind. It's also a powerful anti-inflammatory, both physically and also emotionally. And it's also just really great for cleansing the space and using in a purification rite for cleansing, but also cleansing like your personal space, just to keep in a diffuser that's going. And I'll explain how I like to use these oils kind of as we get to the end. Another favorite one of my oils that I've been using a lot is obviously lavender. Lavender to me is, and like I said, I've been using essential oils for 20 years, and I never leave my house without 3 bottles of lavender. I'm serious. Like I use it for everything. And it blends well with almost every oil. It's super, super gentle. I've known nobody who's ever had a reaction to it. You can use it directly on your skin. It has antibacterial properties. It's great for stress relief. It's an anti-inflammatory. I mean, really the list goes on about how powerful it can be. So lavender to me, especially when blended with frankincense, is also really great for quieting all of the nervous tension and anxiety that we might have both emotionally and mentally as well as physically. So I'm someone who sometimes holds my body in a lot of stress. Like my stress sometimes will just manifest in a lot of like tight muscles. I'm trying to do a lot of like home yoga practice these days, but I gotta say, just putting a drop of lavender, rubbing it over my adrenals, putting it on the back of my neck, holding it over my heart center before I begin my yoga practice is incredibly helpful for just quieting and centering and getting rid of that like anxiety buzz. It's also just really a wonderful oil to help us sleep, but also to support any respiratory issues. So you could even blend it with any of the pine oils if you're fighting an illness or you're feeling congested. So it has a lot of beautiful ways that you can use it. This is steam distilled from the flowers of the lavender. Another essential oil that I'm using a lot while I'm here is rose geranium, but this is a beautiful oil. And this one, to me, if I were to think of one word to describe geranium, it would be all about balance. And I think for women, as when we're thinking about our cycles, at any time in our cycle, from from pre-PMS to perimenopausal to postmenopausal, to me, this has a lot of like feminine resonances in a lot of ways. It's also antimicrobial, like it's from the same, shares a lot of similar molecules with lavender, which give it that antimicrobial element. So this is great for wound healing, cleansing, detoxifying, antiseptic, anti-infectious, great for supporting immunity. But where I find it the most powerful is really like balancing kind of mood swings and balancing like emotional outbursts because of its real anti-inflammatory aspects of it. it blends beautifully with frankincense and lavender, and also with any of the pines. It can be used, I would say, to me, I use this a lot in also skincare. It's very cleansing and balancing. I think if we're having emotional or hormonal disruptions, frankincense is like something you could add a drop to, like an unscented facial cleanser would be really nice for balancing skin. But just also on an aromatic, just if I were just to smell it, I just find it has a lot of resonance to emotional balancing, emotional grounding, and trying to keep all of that up and down. So this has been like one of my grounding things. So there are a few oils that I've been using that I think have been incredibly supportive to my upper respiratory, like keeping that healthy and my immune function strong. One is Cardamom Seed essential oil. One is Eucalyptus, obviously. Any eucalyptus species will do. There's like a peppermint eucalyptus, there's a lemon eucalyptus, and then there's regular eucalyptus. Any of those will do. So eucalyptus, cardamom, rosemary is also another essential oil. If you can't grab eucalyptus, rosemary has similar properties that are also really powerful. And then I've also been using Laurel, or it's called Laurus nobilis. It is the bay laurel tree. And this has some also really great immune support, upper respiratory. And then I will blend it sometime with a pine, with lavender, with the frankincense. But these are really great for upper respiratory health and support, for kind of keeping the flow. You know, we want to disperse any stagnancy. You don't want anything to sit there, you know, to cause infection or if there's any inflammation. So even diffusing any of these oils in the home, putting any of these oils in a quick hand sanitizer that you make at home, putting them in your soaps, hand soaps, like liquid hand soaps works great. Cleaning your house, maybe adding a couple of drops as you mop your floors. All of these work really, really well. Other essential oils too are clove and cinnamon, but those I would add very teeny amounts of because they can be hugely skin irritating. So just make sure if you're using clove and cinnamon that you just do like one drop anytime you use it. But those are kind of my go-tos as far as like building, you know, supporting my immunity and things like that. So anyway, as far as using the essential oils for DIY stuff, like I said, I'm going to be doing more stuff on my Instagram live. You can reach me there at my name, Amy Galper, but the Instagram lives are going to be through called at the Glow House. And that's where I'll be doing like bi-weekly DIYs about what I'm making, and how I'm using the essential oils and things you could easily do right out of your kitchen. But as far as home stuff and using the essential, let's say just for immune support, honestly, you can use any oil that you have in your cabinet, like olive oil, like sunflower oil, like safflower oil, any kind of oil like that you can use. And I would take 2 tablespoons and you can add a total of about 25 drops of an essential oil mix into that, mix it up, and you could use that as a body massage, as a chest massage, put it for immune support over your lymph, on the soles of your feet. I find scalp massages to be really effective when I'm feeling super depleted. And basically I'll just take that, you know, I'll take a tablespoon and then maybe cut the amount of essential oils down to 12, and I'll mix it up and I'll just massage it right into my scalp, and then put a hat or a scarf, because our head is where all of our hair follicles are, and attached to our hair follicles are sebum glands, which are our body's own oils. So the oil and the essential oils have an easier and quicker way of absorbing in our body when there's a lot of hair follicles present. So I find that to be super quick, but I also love to just do it right on my upper chest and my neck, just so I have the aroma as I'm doing my day. And then obviously also diffusing it. in the home. And any diffuser will do, to be able to have that like emotional response to it. Other ways you can use them is in scrubs, or adding the essential oils to unscented liquid soaps or creams or anything like that. So what I've been doing is, I find lavender for me really helps, but I've been blending lavender, frankincense, clary sage, geranium, helichrysum. Like, these are my go-to ones. What I do is I'll just take like a tablespoon of olive oil or whatever oil I have. I'd stay away from coconut because the coconut smell is so strong, it'll overpower the smell. And I'll just take like a tablespoon and I'll add like 7 drops of lavender, like maybe 3 drops of clary sage, maybe like, 2 to 4 drops of frankincense. Like, I'll just start with those 3, and I'll just like, mix it up, and then I'll just massage it on the back of my neck and in my scalp and here. So when I go to sleep, I really smell it. Usually deep, I don't wake up as much. I find that I'm able to go to bed quicker and I'm able to stay asleep longer. I feel like that if I have the aroma around me, like maybe I'll smear a little on the pillow or I'll put it near me, like that will also help, like that environment for it. I also think I found doing like restorative yoga little things before I go to bed with a little essential oil, like on my heart center. Like, I have these things called yoga tune-up balls, and I'll like just roll on them a little bit and put the oil like on the spot where I'm rolling, or if you have one of those foam rollers, just to like help my muscles. Because like I said before, like my muscles tend to do this. So I try to just open it up a little bit, and then use the essential oils in that. I find helps a little bit. I mean, I think you have to think of quality as the way you think of quality with the rest of your life, like how you choose things. And the way that I like to talk about it here is like, you could go to the grocery store and get like tomatoes, that are wrapped in styrofoam and in plastic, or you could just go straight to the farmer's market and you get a tomato, and it's the same tomato, but it tastes totally different. And so it's really about the quality of ingredients and knowing where you're getting it. And I always tend to think like smaller brands sometimes have things. I mean, you have some interesting options in Israel. I think there's some really interesting smaller suppliers there. Yeah. That I think is a good place to start. But I think it definitely, the other thing that I would say, like I started out this whole conversation, is practice smelling. Just like if you've grown up eating, store-bought, tomatoes under plastic, and that's all you know of tomatoes, the day that you eat like a garden tomato, you're like, whoa, your taste buds adjust, right? And then you now know what a good one is like. So what I would try to do is, and I tell my students, buy a selection of essential oils, like buy ones that are $2 and ones that $20, and smell them next to each other and see if you can begin to develop your own sense of discernment. Because it only comes from experience, and ultimately your nose will know. There's definitely, I guess, a lot of what are called fragrance oils, which are when they're not made from plant ingredients. You have to read the ingredient label. Anything that has an essential oil really should say like the plant name, like the botanical plant name. So lavender is Lavandula angustifolia. If it just says lavender oil with no reference to its like scientific name, and there's no reference that it's an essential oil, or there's the word fragrance on the label and it says lavender, it might be more of a synthetically derived, like a one that's made up in a lab, like a synthetic example of lavender. An essential oil should never be put, as Maya said, like directly on the skin, especially on the face. So if you're looking for something for just a basic balancing and moisturizing and supporting your skin barrier function. I would say looking at oils like and this is unscented, like just buying carrier oil of like apricot kernel oil or jojoba oil is fabulous. Jojoba is a wonderful one because it doesn't feel too greasy on the face. Like it's a drier feeling oil. Same with apricot kernel oil. Sunflower oil is lovely, but it has a more greasy feel to it. And then olive oil is also great, but it has a little greasier feel, might be more for nighttime. So I would say those are great carrier oils to start with. And then all you need to do is like in 2 tablespoons, I would add different essential oils for just balancing and kind of nourishing the skin. I think frankincense would be an excellent choice. I would only add about 4 drops to 2 tablespoons. I would maybe do 3 drops of geranium, 7 drops of lavender. That could be like a really simple face oil. I'm using any of those other carriers. I think that would be lovely for morning, noon, night, whenever you want to use it after you cleanse. And then as far as cleansing, like I just did a little IG live last week where I showed how to do a facial exfoliant with some ingredients from your cabinets using like chickpea flour and a little bit of turmeric and things like that, which can offer a great exfoliant. You just mix it with water and scrub it just for a gentle exfoliant on the face, wipe it off, and then you would then apply the oil. That could be a nice little routine.